Okay, let's discuss the government shutdowns. Let's discuss, will it affect your Social Security? What will it affect? Will it affect everyday life? The scary thing is, if the government shutdown affects you that much, we're too entangled into the government for one thing. But let's just kind of go over it. Let's talk about it, and let's see how bad would it be if we allowed it to happen. The pros and cons to it, and that way we'll have a better understanding of all the talk about the government shutdown. We're looking at 2 to 3 days before that happens, unless they all of a sudden pass a bill that's only going to give them another month, by the way. It's just a continuing resolution, so we just kick the can down the road. Is that what we really want, or do we want change? Let's jump into it today. The video starts right now.
Hold my hand, could you hold my hand? Look me in the eyes. You and me, yeah, that's all.
Hey guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so much for being here today. If you are new to our channel, go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell, give us a thumbs up. When you give us a thumbs up, it helps us stay in the algorithm and share our message across the platform. So thank you so much. Now let's jump into the government shutdowns and the thought about, is our money safe? We've been told on television that with the government shutdowns, these crazy right-wingers, what's going to happen is it's going to cause everybody not to get any money. Military won't be paid, Social Security won't be paid, and everybody will be in chaos. Is that true or not? What are the pros and cons of the shutdown? Now, we're talking debt, debt, debt. That's all we do. We spend money in America. We cannot get a control of our budget. We've hadn't balanced a budget, I don't know how long, and we're now trying to continue spending money, and we're really debating on how much debt do we want to go into. That's what it really comes down to. And I think that the Freedom Caucus and the right wing, everybody says the right wing, are getting really chastised for something that just makes sense to not spend money. Sad thing is, they never hold a strong backbone to this. They always end up caving. That's why we do all these shutdowns. That's why we've had like 10. That's why we have all these debt ceiling crises, because what we do is we kick the can down the road instead of just facing the problem. I told you a long time ago, if we would learn to voluntarily put ourselves in recession, if we would learn to voluntarily put ourselves back on a budget, if we learn to voluntarily let the cards fall where they may, we would actually go through this hiccup and this kind of debt issue and this financial crisis a lot easier. But what we do, we tend to try to make a soft landing. So what we do, we extend the debts. We add a little bit more to it. We kind of band-aid this situation instead of just fixing it. So therefore, when we have these conversations on these shutdowns, the media is very good, and the left is good about making you just have a fear about, well, the shutdown is going to make it where you have no money. You have no way of getting your funds, especially your Social Security, especially military. So they play on those heartstrings to say, well, what about the children? I mean, they're not going to have Head Start. They're not going to have WIC programs. What are we doing? No food stamps. That's how they play on your emotions to say, we have to keep funding the government. What we're doing, we're not funding the government, we're funding the debt and funding the issues that we keep having. We've got to get to the point of stopping that. So personally, I'm all for the government shutdown. Now, do I believe it would hurt? Do I believe it would cut some spending down? Do I believe it would cause some problems? It probably would. But if we keep doing what we're doing and all of a sudden the economy just puts us into a shutdown, the economy puts us into a true recession, the economy puts us into a depression, then since we're not in control of it, we're going to have a hard landing, and we're going to see major catastrophic damage to our economy. So I believe if we would learn to just say, we need to start fixing it now versus kicking the can down the road, I honestly believe we'd be in better shape when we look back one day in history. So personally, I think the government shutdown is a good thing, because I believe negotiations need to take place. Now let's talk about the negotiations, and then let's talk about the effects of the shutdown. Now the biggest cards when it comes to the government shutdown, I think, would be the defense spending, which they've passed a lot of that already. But really it comes down to, are we going to keep funding a war that we're not supposed to be into? We have a huge industrial complex when it comes to our military, and I think we have so much lobbying money coming in there, so politicians just feel like, hey, we've got to fund it, so therefore we're spending more and more money. Do you know the money we're sending to Ukraine, the money we're spending over there, in the shutdowns, it won't be affected? It still flies straight over there. You know what else is not affected? The representatives' money, the senators' money. Their money keeps on going. So when we hear about this government shutdown thing, The things that are protected are the things that they're fighting over. The people who have failed to do their job, the representatives and the congressmen, the senators, the ones who have failed to do their job to get a resolution by now, are the ones still being paid, while there will be some furloughed, there will be some laid off, there will be some things not paid for. So just think about that. Also, the Ukraine payments. We're worried about paying Social Security here, we're worried about paying Medicare and SNAP program, and the food programs here, and other food programs. All the while, we're still paying for everything that we promised in Ukraine. Isn't that funny? How even during the shutdown, we still send our money across overseas, but we can't have enough money for here. That's the fear that they're putting. Hey, we have no money here, but we got to still take care of them. So when we talk about the military and the defense spending, again, not for our defense, but for really an offensive that we have no rights and no really say to be in Ukraine, we're seeing that as being one of the negotiations. We're also seeing the southern border. Again, people are flooding in there. Do you remember Biden did let the federal agents cut the fence? He's allowing people to pour into Eagle Pass. Look it up. It blows my mind that we're even doing this in a nation. Like, if I lived in Texas, especially close to that border, I could not imagine the animosity that I would have, because I'll be honest with you, I have animus now, and I'm nowhere near the border. So we're allowing people just to flood our streets. These cities get flooded. Our tax dollars are going to them. Did you know that during the shutdown, that's going to keep happening? They're not going to take the benefits that they're getting away. They're still pouring money for that. They're still letting people fly into the southern border. So the southern border is another issue that they're going to be negotiating in this whole process. And then, of course, the spending, the fact that we just keep blowing money for no apparent reason. So we have to get to those negotiations. And the crazy thing is, everybody says the Freedom Caucus is crazy. They're right-wingers. They don't know what they're talking about. They're dumb. They're stupid. When has it ever been stupid to say we need to be on a budget? When has it ever been stupid to say, you know, if we don't have the money, we can't just keep paying this? When has it ever been stupid to say we need to protect our own sovereignty? Every other nation does it. So why do we frown upon the conservatives? Well, it's because the media and the left pretty much own the establishments to where they can tell you that they are the bad guys, and therefore they're influencing everyone to say, you know what? These Freedom Caucus guys are causing a ruckus, and they're dumb and they don't know what they're doing. It's time to fund the government. So they're teaching you to say, you know what? We need to just keep blowing money that we don't have. We need to keep sending tons of money everywhere. We have to have protection, so we might as well just keep funding the government that we don't have. We're trillions of dollars in debt, and every year we're in a deficit because we're spending more money. Sadly, they're not pushing far enough. I believe we need to cut the budget to a point where we can balance the budget. We're just talking about not wanting to pay, you know, a certain amount of debt or go in more debt. Sadly, we need to quit spending money that we don't have so we can start balancing the budget and start getting on top of our debt so we can become a sovereign, strong nation again, to where we'd be respected across the world. So do I believe we need a shutdown? Yes. Do I believe they're pushing far enough? No. Do I believe that they need to keep pushing, because guess what? Republicans never win these wars because they're fighting the media. But these things like the southern border, like Ukraine, like some of the other defense and extra spending, if they don't stand firm on this, they're just going to fall, and we're going to keep on going in this same vicious cycle, and it will happen again, month over month over month. Now, what's protected? What's costing? There is programs like WIC. There is programs like new people applying for Social Security. There are non-essential workers that will be affected. The SNAP programs, the food stamp programs. However, did you know they came out and said that the food stamp programs has over $1 billion worth of fraud in it? Just in this last report. So I don't know how long the report was, maybe a year. So we're saying there's that much fraud in it, but then here we are, we're needing to fund it. Instead of funding it, you need to fix it. So we got to fix the problems. Again, we always try to band-aid everything, and they're okay with that, because guess what? They're not spending their money, they're spending your money, the taxpayers' money. The middle class, the one who's paying these taxes, that can't find the loopholes like the upper class. The lower income bracket is not even hardly paying taxes. So therefore, we have one group of people paying tons of taxes to then turn around and have tons of waste by the government, all because they know how to spend money, they know how to get lobbying funds, they know how to take your money, they know how to make shutdowns happen for the news cycle, but don't know actually how to balance a budget, fix something like we elected them to do. They're supposed to represent us. Are they truly representing you? Are they representing their special interest? Your Social Security really probably won't be affected. If you're already on Social Security, it's going to keep on happening. If you're already getting a lot of the benefits that you're getting, they're going to keep on happening. It's a lot of the new programs that that will be affected for right now. They're just furloughed. We always come through the shutdown fine. But what I'm saying is, if we don't start negotiating when somehow the Republicans have a little leg to stand on, you're just going to keep on seeing the same problem, and we're going to keep digging a hole, a deeper hole, that's going to put us in it's going to put us in a financial depression if we don't watch it, because we keep spending money we don't have. You know, another group that's not affected is the IRS. All those agents, all that's been funded, so therefore they're not affected. They're going to still be auditing you. They're going to still be making sure you're paying your part. However, we're worried about them paying their part. We're worried about them taking care of us. We're worried about the programs that they should be funding that are truly good programs to fund. All the while, we're still allowing them to get paychecks. We're allowing the IRS to be taken care of. We're allowing Ukraine to be taken care of and their salaries and their pensions. But we don't know if there's enough money for the WIC program. We don't know if there's enough money for the state parks and national parks. I'm just saying, I mean, does that make sense to you? Does that really make sense to you? So to me, I think we need things like this. I think we need shutdowns, because I think it helps us say, how stupid are we that we think we can just keep spending money that we don't have? It's kind of like this. If you get a credit card stub in the mail, you know, you get those little things, hey, you're approved, you're approved, you're approved. Say you get 6 of those in the mail. One has $1,500 limit, one has $10,000 limit, one has $5,000 limit, one has $20,000, one has $5,000. So you have all these, you know, 6 cards, and you're saying, you know what, I want to apply for all of them. So all of a sudden you apply for all of them, you get approved for all of them, and so you have $30,000 to $40,000 that you can spend every month on credit cards. Just because you have the limit there doesn't mean that's a smart thing to do, because you can't afford it. So if you know you can't afford $30,000 or $40,000 a month, which nobody probably can, why would you say, well, let me spend up to it? That's kind of the same conversation we're having when it comes to these debt ceilings and these shutdowns. It's like we have so much money that we can spend because we've been approved for it. So let's just spend it all, even though we don't have the money to actually pay for it. Now, could you do that? No, you would either be thrown in jail, you would actually be hit with fraud, or you would have a major ticket, or you would be in bankruptcy. So how do we allow our government to do these things that we can't personally do? And all the while, they're still taxing you to keep funding these things that are happening, and they're making 6-figure paychecks, they're making lobbyist money, and they're not doing the jobs like they're supposed to. If we go in shutdowns, their money's safe, but some of your money may not be, depending on what kind of benefits you are getting. Now, Social Security, yes, those checks will still go out, so don't let them scare you into saying we don't need this shutdown. We need these shutdowns, these corrections, to fix problems we're having, and these are some major problems. Do I honestly believe we're going to get anywhere with it? No, because you don't have enough conservatives, you do not have enough people with backbone to stand against it. Now, they may hold out for a little bit, but to be honest with you, there should be no reason McCarthy is still Speaker of the House. There's no reason. There's no reason in establishment politics, being the head of the party, that somehow no one agrees with. Isn't it amazing that the President, the Senate, the House of Representatives, and their leadership, their approval numbers are like 30s and 20s, meaning there's a disapproval of way more than the majority. So how do these people stay in power? Doesn't that always blow your mind? Like, McCarthy's approval rating is well under 50%. McConnell's is well under, I mean, it's like 30%. Even down to Schumer and Biden, all their approval ratings are way low. However, we just allow them to set policy that's actually affecting us more, and they're not actually representing what's best for the American populace. They're, again, looking out for certain criteria, certain individuals, and certain special interests that is affecting them. And I think that that's where we come and say, okay, we don't want to shut down because it scares me. They're telling me we're not going to have any money. You don't have money anyway. America's broke. We got to quit kicking the can down the road. Do you know if they pass this, it's only going to give them just a few more months, then they got to do it again. So this cycle, it seems like they're actually working for you. They're actually not working for you. They're actually costing you more and more and more money, because these shutdowns cost a lot of money. It's like millions of dollars, even upwards of sometimes billions of dollars worth of these shutdowns. All the while, they're there every day to set policy, and they wait to the very end to then have these conversations. So we need to start having people hold them accountable. So I hope people like Matt Gaetz, I hope that they actually have backbone, and I hope they stand up and say, you know what, we're going to hold it no matter if it costs me my election. in my local town, we're gonna hold it, because we have to start correcting for the greater good of America. It's not about just our dollars, not about our, our personal jobs. It's about the greater good of the American people. And I think that's what would represent a true populism, a true conservatism, and a true way of showing, you know what, we're looking back for financial freedom in America. If I had a family member that was doing that, maxing out credit cards every month, spending way more than they actually had on wants, not needs, I'd have to come to them in a loving way and say, look, we're cutting up the credit cards. We've got to change your life. We have to change what you're doing. We have to correct it. If we don't, you will put yourself in bankruptcy or prison for fraud. You don't have the money to cover the debts. So when we talk about debt shutdowns and debt crisis and raising the limits, it's like we don't have the money and we keep borrowing more money to pay money that we don't need to pay, that goes overseas, that's not helping us and benefiting us. All the while, you're still struggling day in and day out for food. You're still struggling with inflation. You're still struggling with the fact that we're printing more money than we can actually back. It's all a farce, and we need a shutdown so that way we can correct what we can. Is this the answer? No, it's just the first step in the right direction of balancing a budget on a good financial path. It's gonna take time, it's gonna take heartache, but if we voluntarily do it and take the hard times, it makes it where we won't just be thrown into some major chaotic crash that will be way worse than we can control. That's my thoughts. Let me know what you think. I think we need a government shutdown. I think we need a correction. I don't think it's actually going to happen, because I don't believe these Republicans and these conservatives are strong enough to actually hold their leadership accountable. I'm anxious to see. I think we have a lot of good things that they talk about, but they actually won't go through with them. Politicians are very good about talking, but actually not doing what they stood out to do. That's what I'm hoping happens here. It's time for politicians to actually do what they say. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, again, go down here, press subscribe. If you like this content, give us a thumbs up. Thank you again. God bless. Happy homestead, y'all.
Give me love, give me all your love, give me all your love.